Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making the time. And sorry, yeah, the mic is just for the live streaming, but I will rely on my voice to hear me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time and the energy, and thank you for the speakers, especially for Max for being here and to tell us about the story of SEKEM, Economy of Love. Actually, yesterday we had great talks and great exchange of thoughts and great insights as well of all what they are doing. And special thanks for Kehdy for being on top of the StartHub. And yeah, please tell us what we are doing here.
Yeah. So welcome also from my side. My name is Gitte Schober, and I'm the coordinator of this space. So Wageningen University and Research really fosters innovation also by collaborating and by triggering students and young people to work with the scientific results they might have gathered in their study, what they know, creating impact, we call it. So this is an impact innovation hub, and we are more than happy to have you here or here again. And also get inspired by solutions and possible ways of improving the world in other places. We are happy to be part of it. I hope you will enjoy it. And if you're curious about what we are doing, what type of young people are developing products and services here, you always can approach me in the break or with the networking drinks, and we are more than happy to show you around. But I'm only the space provider, the host. So the moderator of today will take over and we will go straight to the content. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. Is it working? Yeah. Good afternoon. Yeah, I see very big group. Welcome. My name is Karar Mahdi. I'm a staff member of Wageningen University. I'm a researcher, a water researcher, and also a project coordinator for MENA. I'm also from MENA-region, therefore I'm also chosen as moderator today. So I hope you enjoy our public social entrepreneurship event for today. Well, actually, this event may be different concept from such event that happening in Wageningen, also in Western world of this part of the world, because we usually give knowledge for people from Middle East. But today, the concept is different. We will learn today from three key persons from the Middle East about their success, how their sustainable model that they applied in their region make impact for people. So I first will start with introducing our key member or the panel member, and then I will ask Maximilian to give a talk about SEKEM, and then we will have a break, and then panel discussion, and you can ask a question for all of them. So welcome. First organization, SEKEM, is represented by Dr. Maximilian Abouleish. Maximilian, he is the developer, sustainable developer in SEKEM. He born in Germany, but he moved to Egypt, sorry, in 2010, and since then he's working and living in SEKEM, Egypt. SEKEM was founded in 45 years ago, like in 1977, as I understood, and it was like really miracle inside the desert. So imagine someone moved from Germany with his family, went to the desert in Egypt, bought a land like 70 hectare, 60 kilometers of Cairo, and he has a vision to create something from this, to build and to create sustainable development and create agriculture. And now SEKEM is a hub for agri-industrial companies. Also, there is a university initiated 2012 and this university is leading the region for development, sustainable development in the region. The second member for the panel from Jordan, Bashar, he is the founder of Mizan and co-founder of Yambut. And Mizan is a non-profit organization for developing low-tech technology or method for solving water and agriculture issue. Also, Yambut is the leading Jordan brand for organic food products. From Lebanon, we have Joslin. She is also founder and director of NGO Recycle in Lebanon. So I will not introduce them a lot. They will introduce themselves better. So I give the floor to Maximilian. You have 1 hour of talking, also discussion. So prepare your question for Maximilian, and then we have a break. So floor is yours.
Thank you, Karama. It was really a great introduction. I was a little bit now questioning myself, what should I add to that? Well, I definitely want to introduce myself first a little bit more in terms of my background. As he said, I came in 2010 to Egypt, and it was really a gut feeling that I wanted to experience a different place in the world.
Can you speak up a little bit for some people?
Yes, I tried to speak up a little bit. So when I came to Egypt, then I wanted to explore something out of my European comfort zone. And today I have the pleasure to speak about SEKEM, a place that I met then there as being a real social innovation. And I wanted to add also that I'm today sending greetings from Helmi. He could not make it today because also there's a lot of things happening in Egypt I will tell you about, especially also an upcoming event in November about the conference of parties about climate change there. And so much is going on. And Helmi asked the different people to take on different commitments from him to support each other and to, try to keep the ship moving in the Netherlands, in Egypt. And I have the pleasure to get to know you all and also to experience here the Dutch atmosphere, the atmosphere of Wageningen University and StartHub. So I'm really grateful for that. So when I came in 2010, I experienced a place that really was not normal. The website was a little bit strange. It talked about marmalades from the desert, and I was not so much sure why I would go there, but they invited me to present my idea about integral sustainability reporting. And this reporting they offered me a first job as a sustainable development project manager, and I could write my master thesis, like you, kind of exploring the potential of bridging a thesis with a practical experience. So I did the same. I started, and I started openly, and I realized that SEKEM has so many facets, so many different phases from the cultural life. There is a school, there's a kindergarten, there is a vocational training center. Many of you know SEKEM already, and today my focus is not presenting SEKEM in its totality, but I just want to recap a little bit from where I'm coming now. And there is, of course, also the different agricultural activities, not only on our farms, but with, at that time, maybe 500 farmers. Today we have more than 2,000 farmers working with us, small-scale farmers. They all believe in the biodynamic agricultural methods, and they believe in it because it is consistent with their core values, the core values of stewardship for the earth, the core values of justice, the core values of beauty also, and working with the cosmos in the sense of all is one. And if there are cosmic influences on the earth and we are able to recognize them in terms of agriculture, then there is a story that the farmer, the heart of the farmer, can connect to. And Ibrahim, back in the days, Dr. Ibrahim, God bless him, he left us in 2017, he was able to connect to that soul of the farmer, who were maybe in the beginning a little bit skeptical about this different way of doing agriculture, but in the end he could really take them with them, and by seeing the first results, more and more farmers joined. And this is the kind of journey that we are building on. It was not easy to start in the desert. It was not easy to put all the money in this risky endeavor, and to take the family out in the desert where there's nothing but your vision, and to start working on it persistently. You know, I'm the second time for this year in Europe, and my grandmother in law, she's still there with us, Gudrun. She told me, you know what? Back in the days, we haven't been in Europe for 5 or 6 years because you couldn't leave the work. You couldn't leave the people there and just, you know, spend a nice vacation. I mean, you know, for me, it's a nice encounter, and it's part of what is SEKEM also now on a journey towards becoming also a hub and more social. But the times when they were pioneers in the desert, they were really different. And I'm really grateful that I'm, you know, being able to speak about that now. But I think it's something that every pioneer is experiencing. No? This time of starting with nothing, this time of not having a lot resources, this time of having others telling you that you are crazy. These are the kind of moments that I could feel that when I go into the agricultural work, that there's something that I can build on. And now reporting the numbers is a nice thing. But I also knew I need to go out. So I was sent 1 year to the desert farm, and I experienced how real desert life looks like. It's not about writing only nicely that organic agriculture is the solution for climate change. Is experiencing how difficult it is to find at that, back in the days, we still used a lot of diesel generators. Thanks God, this is over. Now we are using photovoltaic. But back in the days, it was like the diesel is not enough, the tractor doesn't start. There were not enough daily workers that we could organize to help us with the harvest or with the planting. The network of irrigation has its leakages, all these kind of things. In the beginning, I tried to fix the small leakages. In the end, I didn't see it anymore because I had other problems in mind. So this was the kind of desert experience that is somehow still very present, because this experience is also something that we are kind of replicating now in other desert farms. But this is something I will come back later to. So this is part of my journey as starting writing reports about SEKEM and the impact, and trying to tell our story. And after this desert experience, I had the pleasure to help in supporting Heliopolis University to be opened. You know, in the midst of the Egyptian revolution, there was something I wanted to not to forget, that 2011 there was an Egyptian revolution starting, the Arab Spring cooking up, me being alone in Cairo and thinking, oh, something is happening, maybe I should move to the farm, because it got quite violent. And I was like feeling more secure on the SEKEM farm, but I used to live in Cairo. And I really saw that something incredible happened. There was history taking place in front of me, you know, in all the Arab Spring. There was a whole tumult and an uprising and no security, and the police suddenly was gone. You know, there was just no rule of law anymore, truly, you know. So I really enjoyed seeing people going on strike, you know, by the way. And you have two sides of it. You can also, you know, see that there's a value behind. But the thing is that I felt like, wow, in such a crazy time, when the employees are coming at night to help you to keep the place secure. The employees themselves, they came to help us protect our community and our production sites. In that time, you know, when you have so much other things to do, in that time you build a university and you open the doors of a new faculty. That's crazy. No? That's crazy. But that's the right craziness what we need, because that gave us all hope and enthusiasm. And I remember Ibrahim, he wasn't the fittest at that time, but when he got the license to open the university, he jumped out of his bed. He said, this is what I need to do. This is, you know, somehow his last baby that he really brought to the earth from his vision that has brought so many companies together with his son Helmi, and so many NGOs and an association of farmers, and all this ecosystem has been brought to life in the last 40 years of his life. But then the last baby was really the university, a place that was kind of still the missing piece of the puzzle, you know. And this was the place that where I could also suddenly help to build up a business school. I mean, I just, you know, come from a business school background, international business, but I have never taught in front of students. But suddenly I was given the opportunity to develop a curricula, or to develop a little thing called, you know, bylaw, and to dream a little bit about what could a university be, to then just confront the rigorous bureaucracy that says, no, a business school should look like this and like that. And so, oh my God. So I was like seeing also that this, this educational bureaucracy is quite challenging. Yeah, quite challenging. And that maybe my ideal of how students behave and ask questions, interactive, is also a little bit dreamy, you know. So I was like, oh, very difficult to operate here. I think I need to go back into practice. And I was thrown into one of our companies from organic textile. This is a T-shirt that we produce as well from organic biodynamic Egyptian cotton. And I experienced after that the economic life, which is also completely different. Huh? The pressure to bring something together and to make sure the container is leaving. You know, with sometimes you have to stay longer. You have to do some unbelievable actions just to make sure that the container is leaving at the right time. And there's never time for reflection. It's always going on and on. So all of this just to explain that SEKEM has to offer all these different experiences, because it combines what life demands, and it always starts in imperfection. Yeah, that's one of our greatest, let's say, strengths, is also to start something even when it's not perfect. And I think that's also a little bit of inspiration that I want to leave here, is like, there has to be a strong vision that keeps you going no matter how hard it is. And being called crazy or being called that's probably not the best way to start is not a reason not to do it. In the contrary, it's probably the best indicator that you're on the right way, because our current systems, they are obviously not functioning. And I will tell you a little bit more about how we can use the existing systems as well to support our cause. Because our aim is, of course, to upscale that. And I maybe want to share that in 2017, Ibrahim Abouleish, he left us. And you can imagine what that raises for questions. Someone who built up SEKEM for 40 years, leaving the scene, being very active till his last day, leaving the scene, leaving a vacuum, right? Leaving a kind of question, and now, and what do we do now? And instead of like being paralyzed, we started immediately a process of asking, and what about the next 40 years? I mean, he served with us 40 years, the vision. And that's why we came up, we need a vision for 2057, which is also described in the book of SEKEM Inspirations. The vision of 2057 for the next 40 years. But it wasn't enough to ask us, where do we want to be? No, we wanted to ask us, what comes from the future to us, how we see Egypt can look like. Because we want to paint a picture for Egypt, because we are just a motor for transforming the society towards something we want to see as a form of society. It's not about us, because us is not enough. if the surrounding is not changing. And SEKEM is maybe a motor for societal transformation, but for that we need to understand where do we see Egypt in 40 years. And we have dreamt a little bit about different dimensions. I mean, I think you all know the 4 dimensions we are talking about. It's the dimension of cultural life, about potential unfolding. It's the dimension of economic life, of value creation, and it's the dimension of relationship and human rights, of societal life, and it's the dimension of being in harmony with nature and sustainable development. So in these 4 dimensions, which reflect also our source of inspiration of anthroposophy and are compatible, of course, with Islam and ancient Egyptian values and myths, we thought, okay, what are the goals that we find relevant to strive for? And we came up with 16 goals during a process of 1 year. I think it was even 17, and then later on it was 1 removed or 2 removed, 1 added. So it's a fluent system. It's not like, hey, we write it in stones and then it will ever stay like this. But right now it stabilizes as being 16 goals. And these 16 goals are definitely this kind of crazy goals, never to be achieved maybe, but they give us direction. They give us together enough clarity on where to follow. And for example, this year it was about climate change and biodiversity. Next year it will be about societal transformation, also upscaling, and water, sustainable water management. And why do we select it? Yeah, because we see a little bit what kind of topics come to us. And with COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh knocking the door, we are seeing societal transformation as being the next big topic, because it's all about upscaling. And this is also a little bit the focus from today. But before I go into today's presentation and focus on the economy of love, Iktisal Mahabba, this is the Arabic version of it. I want to give you an opportunity to clarify anything about SEKEM or about what I have said right now in order to move on together. So is there any kind of question, kind of remark, kind of also direction for me of how to focus?
Any questions?
Thank you. Is it working?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay. Well, for me, this is all quite new. It's not working.
Yeah, it's for the
for the
online
audience?
audience only.
Okay.
So I hear her.
I'll talk
I
a bit
hope you-
louder.
Yeah.
For me, this is a very new topic. So I have no idea of the vision of SEKEM, basically.
Yeah.
So a small introduction. Maybe I just missed it because I was a few minutes late. But
Yeah. Do we have the presentation from yesterday? From yesterday? Okay.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question about a little bit of introduction about the context of SEKEM and the vision. Also the vision of SEKEM, I need to now tell it to you because the slides are a little bit directed towards the economy of love, as we will see, but that doesn't matter. The vision of SEKEM, you have the slides? Perfect. Okay, thank you. I find it's a valid point. So the slides from yesterday, yes, exactly. And this, by the way, this is in the middle of SEKEM, the mother farm, where it was desert before, okay? And we have here a production site for a company called Isis. Isis is producing herbal teas and is a market leader in herbal teas, producing really a lot of like daily 3 million of tea bags, predominantly Yansun tea, just to give you a very concrete example. And here we have a part of storage and also a quality system. But here are 2,000 people or 1,500 people coming from the companies, coming from the schools, coming from the vocational training center, gathering in front of this building to go to a joint celebration. But we have this circle every Thursday to start the weekend together. The vision is about sustainable development, and I can read it out loud. So it's about sustainable development towards a future where every human being can unfold his or her individual potential. This is the cultural life. Where mankind living in social forms reflecting human dignity. That's the societal life. And where all economic activity is conducted in accordance with ecological and ethical principles, what economic and ecological life. This is Ibrahim, Dr. Ibrahim. God bless him. He kind of gave us this direction of how to become active, and he was very active in all fields. He was an architect, he was a researcher, he was an educator, he was a businessman. He was really an inspiring person that could be very, very attentive and could look into your heart and understand you and listen, and at the same time could be very strong leader with a very powerful direction and just going that way like a bulldozer. So he was both. He was both, and it was a really inspiring figure. And I think it was part of the recipe why in 40 years he could build up such a such a social innovation in the desert. These are some numbers. I don't want to go too much now into it, but it shows that we have established successful businesses. We are active in the export and the local market. We have around 2,000 employees. We are building, or we are reclaiming a lot of land, around more than 3,000 hectares of land nowadays with our supplying farmers. I said they are already more than 2,000 nowadays. We are educating pupils in the vocational training center and in the schools and in the kindergarten. So there are some, we are beyond prototyping in some cases. We are already upscaling something, but our vision and our mission is, our mission is not now to become bigger and bigger and bigger and make the next farm, but to become really some inspirational platform that is showing other projects around the world whatever they need to see in order to replicate that. And we have some experiences in replicating, because we are building another farm in the Egyptian Western Desert in order to feel this kind of challenge again, but with a different time and with a different capacity and experience. These are some products that you can see, oils and some phytopharmaceutical products based on plant medicine, and some herbal teas, some honey and spices, and beautiful baby clothing, and some other textiles as well. Yeah, this is a broad kind of portfolio of products that you really need as a human being somehow. This is where we are active. And here we have these kind of vision goals. I don't want to talk about them in detail, but I want to show them that somehow this is a form of a flower where we are on different petals on different ways. Also, the logic is that we always start with a vision, and then we need to research. We need to ask ourselves, where is the way? And start also bringing down the research in form of centers also, which are places where people can be employed, where funds can be attracted. That's also a kind of challenge now. How do I create a container so that people can get employed and that I can attract funding, that I can make the next step to speak the language of the market or of the scientific community? It's not enough to dream the vision. You need to bring it down. and then to prototype it, to bring something out that is not perfect. And we all know this beautiful theory U process. No? You need to listen, you need to understand, and so on, but you need to also get your hands dirty and just start with something and see if it works. If it doesn't, start again or improve it a little bit, but prototypes are needed. To then upscale it, for us, the prototype is somehow our mother farm, and the upscaling happens in the 13 villages around us or in the desert farm in the Western Egyptian desert. That's where our upscaling happens, our experience in testing. Can we really replicate it? Do other people really follow that? Yes or no? And then the mainstreaming. And the mainstreaming is happening currently in renewable energy and organic agriculture. The renewable energy is a little bit out of our hands because it's just, the tipping point of renewable energy has been reached. The cost of renewable energy to install it are so low, and the other conventional fossil fuel costs are getting so high. It's a market reality that renewable energy is becoming mainstream. Thanks God. The biodynamic agriculture story is not so an easygoing mainstream path. But I will show you today later why we are kind of seeing this momentum happening at the moment and why we see really a game changer in it. And that's maybe one last slide to not be too boring for those who have seen it yesterday. This is the kind of ecosystem that is behind SEKEM. It's a different spheres of life that all have somehow a different entities, institutions that are active in the spheres of life. It's not like we're just operating freely in a vacuum. No, we have a university, we have an NGO, the schools are below the NGOs, we have businesses, we have an association of farmers, and we have even a Treuhand Gesellschaft, like a trust, a charitable trust that is holding the majority shares of SEKEM, that makes SEKEM not being a family business anymore. Can you imagine that in the second generation of a family business, the founder, because Helmi is for me part of the founding generation, he started when he was 16 years old, working for SEKEM all his life. So the second generation saying that they give all their shares away into a trust is something. I mean, that doesn't happen normally. It's another reason why many people say, are you sure what you are doing there? Is it, is it really what you work for? Is in the end you give it all away? Yeah, it's somehow it is a way to make sure that the purpose of SEKEM is kept alive and the trust owns itself. Yeah, I think that's it for now for SEKEM, and thanks for Ben to make it possible to solve that challenge. And let's go to the other presentation now, okay? The one that I sent today in the morning. Okay, great, and thank you for the question. I think it fits. So now we are coming to the kind of sphere of economy of love. So the question is, give me a small feedback. Do you like that? Please, do you like that name, Economy of Love? Please raise your hand if you kind of like that name. And are you kind of skeptical about the name? Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, I think that is understandable, but also we thought it through many times. And because it came up in Arabic the first time, said by a farmer on our farmer meetings, Iktisal Mahabba, we translated it. It meant economy of love, and we couldn't get rid of it because with all the kind of other attributes you might come up with, love is really what is at the core of what we need as the design principle for a new economic system. It's based on solidarity, based on love and not on profit maximization or fear. So we think that in the long run, we will really make it. Economy of love is one of our vision goals, and surprise, surprise, we are also talking here about the wheel of balance, because an economy of love where we are talking about a value creation chain should be an integration of these wheel of balance. If I'm only focusing on business in an economy of love, I will end up where I'm today. I don't want that. I want an integration of all the spheres, because somehow every sphere is like a fractal and has the other spheres in it. Of course, I mean, me and also all in one, one in all, one of these beautiful principles, also very present in Islam. This is living it and putting it in the design of our economy of love system. Well, it was born and inspired by the Demeter movement, because biodynamic agriculture is an essential base for it. So our economy of love is based on a value creation that has its roots in nature, in agriculture, because that's where value is created out of nothing. After that, you can put your labor on nature, or you can put your spirit on labor. You create value along the chain, great, but from where does it come? It comes really from nature. And Demeter is, of course, an expression, as a standard for expressing the principles of biodynamic agriculture. That was a very important starting point for us since the beginning. And traditionally, we have a cooperation with the Center of Organic Agriculture in Egypt, who is giving the certificate of Demeter, or of biodynamic certificate, to our farmers. It's a third-party accreditation certification system. So this body, they are accredited by Demeter International, and they give out a certificate for the farmers who work according to the principle. That's what we know. That's what happens in almost every country that is engaged in biodynamic agriculture, and it's not a surprise. What is a little bit a surprise is that we are now not focusing only on the farmer anymore, but on also businesses and production industries. And we have here a certification system that is very holistic. And I put this QR code there because you can all test if your smartphones are, if you are interested to take an in-depth of the next kind of elements. You can just scan it, and then you land on the Economy of Love certification details. And the certification is just that, for us, Demeter was not enough as a standard. We also had something like fair trade, or something, some other standards like ISO or something. For us, it was so many different standards, but it was lacking culture. The cultural element was lacking. And we wanted to combine the best practices of all different standards. So we teamed up with the Egyptian Biodynamic Association, Demeter Egypt, and we said, let's do the Economy of Love standard, integrating it all together. And this was when Economy of Love was born. And then we said, okay, adhering to the standard is not enough. We have to go and create a transparency. And if you try this out, this is really cool, because Impact Trace is giving you the story of the farmer that is behind the product. So when in Egypt it's already happening, and sometimes in Europe as well, you look on the products that we offer, and there's a QR code, and you as a consumer, you can click on it, and you will see from where does the product come, who is the farmer. There's a video, the farmer is presenting himself, and then you learn about the product. You learn about the product, about the water footprint, about the CO2 footprint. You learn about the packaging steps. You see who packaged it, in which company was it packaged, and so on. We really did a lot of work to go product after product to put it there put it there on the website. It's not yet, or it's not needed to be blockchain at the moment, because it's built on trust. But if you Corinne or someone else, if you want to really check out if this anise tea comes from the place we say, you can now go. You can now check it out. And you see the name of the farmer, etc. And later on, we see that this data is really helpful to us. But it tries to just answer, you as a consumer, what impact do I have on nature and people? Because we think basically if the consumer knows, then they would sometimes maybe take a different choice. Because often we just don't know, or we don't take the time, and our consuming behavior is just leading to the outcome what we see. So like we want to give the power to the consumer to make an informed choice. And this is the way how we do it. Now the carbon credit story is coming in. That's something new and something that changes the game. I know that carbon credits are also recently in the critique, and that's right so. You know, you cannot reduce the discussion of climate change to carbon only. Yeah, carbon is not the only driver behind climate change or behind the greenhouse gas. Yeah? The question is, why is there carbon more or less in the atmosphere and so on? And you will soon understand that it all is interdependent also with biodiversity and. But carbon is realized and scientifically accepted to be a critical element in mitigating climate change. Yeah? Removing carbon from the atmosphere or avoiding carbon emissions. Now, sometimes people and so on and businesses, they come to the idea, how can we create income through carbon credits? Maybe we plant 1 or 10,000 of one tree species on an empty field and claim carbon credits for it. For 10 euros the credit. And then if the price goes down to 5, they stop irrigating the trees because it doesn't matter. Or they have problems with the monoculture because the trees are all the same. Yeah, that exists, and this is not the way how to generate carbon credits. It's also not a good idea to open another nuclear power plant and to say, guys, it's so environmentally friendly, no carbon, give me carbon credits for it, because there are certain discussions of where carbon credits are actually hiding a kind of industry that is harmful to the environment, even though the intention is good, but it's used and manipulated in a way that you should be careful. Now comes our observation. Our farms that we have started ourselves, so in our farm in Wahad, this is the Wahad Desert where we started in 2009. In this farm, we have planted trees on the side, and we have started to plant soil here. And we have compared the soil with the Louis Bolk Institute to the soil that is in the mother farm 40 years old. And then you see there is carbon sequestration in the soil happening. That's basically why the soil gets from so white a little bit, or so bright, into a little bit more darker color the more you cultivate on it. Why? Because you sequester carbon in it. At least if you look at 40 years of experience, you are sequestering around 3.2 tons per carbon per hectare per year, roughly. I mean, I guess in the desert, you sequester more in the first 50 years than in Europe, where maybe it's more saturated already. But we know a little bit about the saturation of carbon in the soil, so we can assume that this rate that I've just mentioned is happening, and it's a good motor for carbon sequestration, taking carbon through plant photosynthesis into the soil. Okay, number one. Number two are the trees. Every tree in average over 30 years is sequestering 33 kilo of carbon per year. Does it sound realistic? Can you live with that? Do you think a tree, in average, over the lifespan of 30 years, sequesters 33 kilo of carbon every year? So becomes 33 kilo bigger every year in terms of mass? Well, the little ones maybe not so much, but the big ones much more. Yeah. So there's a kind of model where you can say, in average, it's 33 kilo, and there are people who are paid for this, like Gold Standard or TÜV Nord. They come and look at the trees, they measure it, they look at the density, and they say, yo, we are okay with that model, that's okay. And then there is compost. If you make compost, here this brown mass is fresh compost. If you make compost out of cow manure, then you prevent the cow manure to decompose and release methane. Yeah, from the alone sheer decomposition of manure, methane goes up, and you avoid that when you do compost. Great. So you avoid emissions through the compost, and you take carbon away. And for 830 acres, which is maybe around 300 hectares, 12,000 carbon credits can be generated with a huge income of 300,000 euros. I mean, keep that in mind for a small farmer. If I tell a small farmer, with your 1 hectare, you can create around 600 euros more income through carbon credits, because you are doing something anyway, and we are just acknowledging that what you are doing is providing a service to nature or to the planet, then he is super happy to get acknowledged for that and get more money in his pocket, because the Egyptian farmer is not really the guy who receives a lot of money from the government, actually zero. He's suffering from unfair competition and from energy subsidies from the conventional guys, but the organic farmer is super happy to get a little bit more pocket in his money to feed his family and to invest into the education of his kids and to do something that he considers as valuable. And this is currently happening. Yeah, this is currently happening with a system where we are not talking only about carbon credits. We are talking about a biodynamic system that is producing valuable products that are fair produced with, with the support of the farmer also in the cultural realm. And the good side effect is it generates carbon credits. We are really in a different ball game suddenly, and we are not needing someone else from Europe, like Gold Standard or TÜV Nord, to come to acknowledge that. No, we have our certification body that is now accredited to become a so-called validation and verification body that is able to not only go and check on the practice of organic agriculture at your farm or biodynamic, he's also counting the trees, he's also looking at the compost, and he's checking some parameters that go in the model, and it's the same cost, basically. It's the same cost, but generating more income for the farmer. And that's a breakthrough. That's really a breakthrough, because for a farmer, it means 30% more income. And if the farmer, the organic premium before is 20% more, that means the farmer can sell his produce the same price as the conventional guy from next door, but still have 10% more income. That's a complete game changer happening right now in Egypt, and I'm coming back to that. But this is a super exciting time right now, and I hope you can understand the magnitude of it, because before it's always like, yeah, organic farming is nice and so on, but it's so expensive. It's only for the rich. No, it's not true. It's not for the rich anymore. There's no reason of not to do it anymore, because we acknowledge its real value, its true cost. And this is by far not the end. Yeah. Tomorrow we are able to really value biodiversity. Tomorrow we are able to value other things that are part of the equation. And I think the more time goes by, the more successful this model can be. And with this carbon credits that we kind of sell for our own farms, or the farmer is selling, to whom basically? What do you think? Who is buying these carbon credits? What do you think? Factories, right? Exactly. Even consumers, you know, when you are flying, you have the option to make your flight carbon neutral. The problem is that the airlines, they are buying carbon credits for €4, and you don't really know where they're coming from. But if you know that your kind of yearly footprint of a person in Europe is maybe around 8 tons per year, 9 tons. I'm responsible for 6 tons in Egypt. So I can offset myself, you know, like that's the idea. I can neutralize the emissions. And I'm not saying that we should stop all the emissions. I have emissions because I'm breathing. And I guess some businesses that really make sense for society, some value creation has emission, but we should all reduce it to the minimum emission that we have or should, yani, cannot avoid, and then we can neutralize them. And it's super convenient for a brand that is selling clothes or selling food to offset their emissions with carbon credits that are produced in their own value chain. That's a really a good deal. Yani, think about first how you can use your own value chain, and you know, go to your own farmers, because they're doing already a great job if they are working biodynamically or organically, because conventionally you are emitting carbon. And if you are selling that, we are taking a little bit money, 5%, into a fund that is helping other farmers to start the journey, no? With more trees or with investments into renewable energy. Because if you want to create carbon credits, you should not use a diesel generator. It's better to use renewable energy. And there are microloans that allow farmers to finance renewable energy, for example. And this is all part of the economy of love system that the Demeter Egypt developed and is piloting it, because it's not really something that is easy to, you know, to push through in a Demeter International, because they have also their doubts, and they want to, you know, it's also a bureaucracy somehow. And so we are a test bed for an Egyptian chapter to test this out and to see how the responses are. Raising awareness is part of our economy of love pillar, because of course we are going out, we are trying to bring that to the schools, but we are bringing it also to the surrounding of the farmers in the villages. So all of this together is a mechanism of societal transformation, because we are talking about a societal transformation where we can create all these co-benefits, and we are targeting COP27 as a platform for this. Because COP27, I never really thought that these politicians do something useful when they are coming together. But this time they are coming together in Egypt, and it creates massive attention and mobilization of energy. And if we just position ourselves as being, hey, we are a solution for climate change. You want to talk? We are here. And of course, if you want to talk, you need to put some numbers on the table. And we are trying to use this dynamic in order to be maybe a good source or a good direction to attract funding. So I've told you that our example is happening. Also, we are generating carbon credits, we are selling it to our partners, it works. Then the next step is to do this with all our farmers, 2,100 farmers. And this means 14,000 acres and 84,000 carbon credits, roughly. You know, the numbers are a little bit calculatory, but I just want to show you how this can grow. If you go to phase 3, it's 40,000 farmers, and phase 4, it's 250,000 farmers. So I hope at least 1/3 of you guys, you're ready to come to Egypt to help us, because alone we will never do this. We cannot do it. We don't want to do it. We need to engage like platforms that are kind of matchmaking demand and supply. We need super good people in upscaling technical assistance for farmers. We can only show how it works for 2,000 farmers, but the rest is out of our hands. But we would like that we kind of have a concerted effort in now tackling something that was before from developing countries, so to speak. They said, yeah, no, come, let us alone with carbon discussions. The industrialized countries, they polluted everything. Now you want to tell us what to do and what not to do? Please let us alone. But to turn that narrative into, hey, we have actually the means to generate a sustainable transition of farming and generate carbon credits that attracts money from the Western world, because there are a lot of pollution happening there. That's changing the narrative and allows for an influx of money that has not been there before, to end up where? In the pocket of the farmer. That's the kind of hope and ambition that we have, that through this system that we are seeing working for 2,000 farmers, it can work for more farmers, with all the risks and all the challenges ahead. But that's the kind of language at the moment that mobilizes so much enthusiasm, and so much people start to listening. And this is the momentum what we see in COP at the moment, being heard. And I think that's from my side it. I think the last slide should say thank you very much for your attention. And I think we have enough room for a good discussion also now, because that's what is really important. And I hope I could get a little bit of sense of what's going on which wave we are kind of riding at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Maximilian.
Please, your name and which organization you are from and what you are interested in, and maybe stand.
I'm Frits Boerwinkel from Synergoland. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Super.
I would like to help you with the first problem you mentioned in your whole story about attracting water again by earth. Now we see the opposite in Holland and everywhere here. And I think that in your kind of doing, you can gain more attraction in your landscape by what you are doing and the way you are doing it by etheric oils. Because etheric oils are just produced between plants and between animals and plants and so on. And the more biodiversity you have, you can use it. And this is something about, I have more information for you for future.
Thank you. Was it about attracting water through oil?
Surface tension of water becomes higher when you have wax made of different kinds of etheric oils produced by different kinds of animals and plants together. Mm-hmm. Because every plant which is eaten by a certain species of animal produces something against only that species. Mm-hmm. And another kind of species, another etheric oil. And the more biodiversity you have, the more kinds of etheric oils. And together, they make the dew rain bigger. So in the night, it happens. And that is where you can make a lot of profit from.
Interesting. Yeah. Good suggestion, maybe for later.
Yeah.
Another question?
No doubts here? Or first, everything is clear?
And then we have one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Salah Ali. Actually, I know SEKEM. I studied at Heliopolis University, but I have a question to Max. Really interesting presentation. Thank you very much. I have a question about this economy of love CO2 credits. When you're talking, because you said there's a lot of dynamics happening and there's a lot of conversations happening with people in Egypt, and you said there's some bias sometimes. When you're talking with policymakers maybe in Egypt about the CO2 credits concept of like organic farming, compost, I'm curious about the response they give to you. Are they doubting the concept or doubting the framework, or they saying it's impossible to have? What are the challenges in this part? What they respond to you?
I have, yeah. Well, what rings is the money talk, no? What rings is suddenly the fact that you can show that you managed already to generate 7 million of Egyptian pounds per year only through carbon credits, and that this makes your agro business much more profitable. So the numbers are convincing people, and most of them probably don't know what biodynamic agriculture is. And also the stock exchange doesn't really maybe understand that a nature-based solution of biodynamic agriculture is a very sound and high quality solution. But what they see is that there's a demand of companies with around 100 millions of carbon credits per year, that from where should they supply these? They are an exchange platform. They are specialized in matching demand and supply. And yeah, I mean, the essential question is the technological platform on what can that happen, and also the kind of capacity of how to upscale yeah, the knowledge to farmers. And I think we have to talk about peer guaranteed systems where the practice of biodynamic agriculture or organic agriculture, because it starts with organic and later you can add the biodynamic protocol. But the practice of an economy of love value creation needs to happen cost efficient and based on a dialogue. So only expecting it from third parties to be done is not possible. There has to be a dynamic from farmers to farmers of teaching each other and to have it decentralized somehow. How? I don't really know. But we have a model of 2,000 farmers where it already works and where some like learning can happen, but the replication needs to happen really decentralized. And only for the verification and validation at the moment, you need then someone to come and, you know, who is accredited by ISO, I don't know what, and say, okay, these are the parameters for the carbon credit, these are okay, and I kind of verify and validate it, and so you can generate the certificate. But for the transition towards sustainable agricultural practice, for the local farmer and for this upscaling, we are really in the need of a kind of peer-to-peer system that is allowing farmers to become champions, to take other farmers on the way, because you can never, you know, it's not a system that you can seek grants and corrupt it only for your benefit. It's a system where there needs to be a cultural shift and people need to understand it. And that's the main challenge, that you have to have a cultural shift and a kind of farmers to farmers learning experience that is spreading, hopefully virally, yeah?
Thank you.
My name is Paul van der Wulp. I work for Odin as area manager. And I think of SEKEM every day because I use your towels. We sell them in the shop. I have two questions. One is how much percentage you want to reach in 2025? Is the area you use from the total area available in Egypt? And the second question is if you can tell something more about, you talked about sustainable water management. If you can tell something more about that.
Yeah, okay. So the scenario for 2027, 28 is kind of 250,000 farmers representing 1.6 million acres is roughly 18% of Egyptian area arable land available. And this 18% is an interesting number because it would represent the tipping point of a systemic change. If you go beyond 15%, there's no way back. And we can study this with renewables, or we can study this with organic bananas, or, you know, like if you reach that tipping point, then you can relax, but because it will happen. About the water, as I said, Egypt is living under water poverty. That means we have around 600 cubic meters per capita per year virtually available. Available through the Nile and from groundwater sources, but we know that you need around 1,000 cubic meters per capita per year in order to be above the poverty line. And I'm talking about water consumption that includes the water footprint of your T-shirt or of your piece of meat that you are eating, and so on. We know that you can easily, you know, consume a lot of water during the day. Yeah? 1,000 liters, or you look at your T-shirt and so on. So we are living in a situation of water scarcity, number one. Number two is 80% is used by agriculture and is coming, maybe the majority is coming from the Nile, the water. So how to make the water usage from the Nile more efficient is one of the greatest sources of prolonging our existence on the limited water that is there. Also, we are talking about a lot of flood irrigation that is used by 2/3 of the farmers that are small-scale farmers in Egypt that are in the Nile Delta. They are working based on flood irrigation. That has cultural reasons mainly. So there is a huge efficiency that you can gain from that. There's another scenario in the Western Desert, for example, that is not the majority of Egypt's available water. That is, for example, fossil, coming from very ancient sources and probably not renewing from Egypt's kind of surface. And this water, you have to be also very kind of critical about how do I use it and how do I value it. You can have enough for the next 100 years because it's the biggest water aquifer in the world, but it's still fossil. But when you come into the desert and you see that there's a general kind of pressure on people working in agribusinesses working on it, you can ask yourself, okay, how do I use this precious resource in order to generate a value right now and to create a model for sustainable development with community building in the desert, for example, what we do, and still legitimize the use of this precious resource in order to create a different value. So it's always about a trade-off. This is really sustainable development means to take choices where not everything can be perfect and to make trade-offs and to also work on technological innovation or water harvesting or in the long run, so you are really able to make the best out of that resource or to make sure that other water cycles are closing. We are talking about mega landscape restoration projects also. I mean, this desert hasn't been always desert, you know, so there has to be also very crazy projects of how to think big in order to make water cycles, to change water cycles. So in a way, you can harvest water from different places and bring them there. But that's very complex. But these are, challenges we need to tackle as a humankind. Huh?
Thank you. More questions?
Yes, I have a question. Do you know if... Oh, my name is Ellen Winkel, and I'm in the board of the SEKEM SEKEM Friends, and I'm working in biodynamic agriculture. So I was wondering, do you know if there are European countries where the biodynamic movement is working with those carbon credits?
Not so far, because Europe is taking part in the climate agreements from the UN under the Paris Agreement, committing themselves to the 1.5 Celsius targets that as a country, the European Union participates in these commitments. That means that the European countries, they have their own carbon balance, and with the so-called clean development mechanisms, they are trying to offset emissions that they have on a national basis, or to reduce their emissions on a national basis. That's why you see that European countries take initiatives to support projects that reduce carbon emissions. So on a country level, they are participating in that race, and they would say to the farmers, you cannot generate carbon credits because you are part of our national equation already. So a European farmer has a challenge now to tell the government, by the way, I'm working organically, biodynamically, so you should give me incentives to do so because I'm helping you to reduce your carbon balance and your emission, your national emission carbon balance. And some countries say, yes, you are right here. You are working organically. That's fine. Take it. And some, like France, and some, like Germany, they say, no, I don't care how you work. You get your subsidies by your area, not by the practice. So there's a little bit of lobbying from the farmers that need to wake up and say, hey, let's look on how we work in order to make even the national balanced life. But you cannot say, or you have to be careful for double accounting. You cannot say, now the European countries, they count on their sequestration from all the farmers, and the farmers again count and sell it. No, that is double accounting. That doesn't work. But in Egypt, there's no national carbon accounting yet. It doesn't work in that way, and not in the foreseeable future. So what the Egyptian farmer is doing is he's generating these credits and selling it on a voluntary carbon market. Yeah, and there is a kind of international acknowledged standards like Gold Standard and Vera, where big companies say, oh yeah, we believe they are doing a really good job, and they are doing a really good job, but they are damn expensive. So what we just do is like we sit together with other accreditation bodies in Egypt and we say, look what they are doing here. Can we not do it at the same thing, but much cheaper? And here we go. We did it. It's the same kind of system, but at a very small price, and we sell it voluntarily. So any company is able to buy it or not. It's a voluntary agreement, and that doesn't happen in Europe at the moment.
Thank you very much. My name is Bashar Humeid. To be honest, I hope your heart is big enough, and I know SEKEM is big enough to accept some criticism, but the more I hear about the integration of the carbon credits and all their problems into the economy of love, and the less I am convinced that these two concepts are compatible, to be honest. Maybe we can discuss about this later, but I liked actually the idea of this QR code, where you can, as a consumer, see and value the work of the farmer that you're buying the product from. And my suggestion is we actually can now, this value or this information that can be transported through internet, through this QR code. We have now the possibility through blockchain to not only transfer information, but to transfer value. And you were talking about peer-to-peer systems and how we can implement it, and you said you don't know, but actually what you showed us with the QR code is that the consumer can actually transfer the value directly to the farmer, and it's now not just need a few clicks, downloading a wallet for the farmer and a wallet for the consumer, and they can directly give the value that they see of the product directly to the farmer. And this will, I think, give much more than $2 million to Egypt a year. I think the value of the farmer who is doing all this work is much more than $2 million a year. This is my idea and my criticism. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I take the idea, but the criticism, I didn't really get the argument yet. So what makes you critical of it?
Well, yeah, actually, you already give us like all the flows of the carbon, or you mentioned some examples of the flows in this carbon credit system. I can give you like hundreds of more examples that are being now shown in the carbon credit system. So already the system, already the system has many problems. Okay, of the carbon credit.
Yes.
And already you're acting in a kind of gray zone, because any time the politicians of Egypt can change their mind and forbid you of what you're doing. Anytime in Europe, the situation can change and they can accept or reject these things. In America, it's the same. As you said, the politicians, usually when they sit together, they produce bad dynamics or bad ideas. But I think this is also applicable for their carbon credit idea. And this is proving right now with the time that this mechanism is not sustainable. And it's, I think, from what I understand about biodynamic agriculture and about economy of love, I think it needs another approach. But this is just my opinion, and I hope you accept it.
Yeah, well, I respect, of course, other opinions, but I think that just because we see bad examples of an carbon credit system to be applied doesn't mean that we cannot use it when it's designed in a good way. It's like if I have a problem or I see problematic cases in online dating or so, it doesn't mean that there can be some great examples where it's really creates happy new partnerships or something. But I'm really happy to see how we can learn from the problems, because we looked very carefully to the arguments against and carbon credit systems, and we learned from it already. Yeah. So I think we are still convinced, and we are happy about criticism. So don't take me wrong. No? Thank you.
So thank you. We need if you have a question in the panel discussion, you can save your question for later after the break. But I have a very small question for you, Maximilian. But before we leave, not leave, we take a break. You are today in Wageningen, and you are in StartHub of Wageningen, but it is within Wageningen campus.
Yeah.
And you learn in the morning that from my colleague Marco that Wageningen is #1 in agriculture and forestry. So today, you SEKEM has a clear vision, successful experience over more than 40 years. So what you are looking for in Wageningen today? What you are especially in your future? You are aiming to teaching more than 200,000 farmers.
Yeah.
With the climate change and impact on these growing. When you grow, also you have also more problem related to climate, soil, water, etc. So what you are thinking of how to collaborate with Wageningen to help you with your vision or your future?
Well, I think that every site, every culture brings the gifts to the table, and the gift is from this Northern Hemisphere and European context here. Definitely there's some rationalism and ability to do rigorous research and to have systems in place, strategies in place, and also a very powerful pragmatic business side that is able to mobilize a lot of consumers. And we have to combine this power with our ability to build on the relations of 2,000 farmers and to have the trust of more farmers to come to provide that kind of access, and also to add this kind of holistic vision to it, because it's not only about business and academia, but also about, somehow it's a spiritual journey behind and reaching a vision towards holistic development. And I think that every vision needs a place to ground. And I could imagine so much that there can be projects that can propel that, there can be research to support and question that, and there can be students and researchers coming out there to help, really. And for us to be here, like for me now to be here, is also to take a fresh perspective, to take some good energy with me, and maybe some inspiration about etheric oils. And then we take it from there. And it's an ongoing journey. Yeah? It's just how you never stop going. It's just one step leads to the other, and I hope that there is a little bit of wish from someone to say, I want to take it a step further, so I make a concrete suggestion. Yeah.
Thanks a lot,
Thank you.
Maximilian,
Yes.
for your presentation, and
Of course.
also for answering all these questions. We are very glad to hear all these success. So also thanks for the audience, also for the nice question. So we will have like 15-minute break.
Thank you very much.
And we will back at 5.
So welcome back, everyone. So now we had a nice short break. I hope now everyone is refreshed, and we're starting now the panel discussion. My name is Salah Ali. I'm going to assist with Dr. Karar moderating this panel discussion. I would like first to tell you a little bit how this panel discussion will be. We have now beautiful 3 entrepreneurs from the MENA region. I will give them 5 minutes to introduce their business, okay? But then there are going to be some questions from us and from the audience, mainly focus on their entrepreneurial journey. How is it like to start a business in the Middle East? And then we continue. We have an hour for that. So I will give first Bashar 5 minutes to explain what's your business, your name. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. We can stay sitting.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for you all. My name is Bashar Humeid. My father comes from Palestine and my mother comes from Germany. And I studied in Germany. And then I went back to the Arab world and worked as a journalist in Abu Dhabi, as an environment researcher later. And then I came to the conclusion that I have to stop being an employee, and I was working with the Abu Dhabi government, and I've seen many things that are related to our discussions today, governmental corruption, etc. And in the middle of the Arab Spring, I decided that I need to do some solution for the crisis that we are living in the MENA-region. So I went back to Jordan, and I had this dream that I want to green all the roofs of the Jordanian capital, because we have flat roofs, they are underutilized. So I was thinking, with all the solutions that I read about and seen in Europe and elsewhere, I can be inspired and do something on these roofs. So I created something, a low-tech solution called the Freedom Machine. It's basically a combination of many systems to produce hot air that heats the building beneath the roof, to produce food on the roof, to collect rainwater, and to also grow, for example, fish in an aquaponic system. And it can be upgraded or downgraded, but this is essentially the system. Through this journey in the NGO that I created, I learned much about the NGO work, the positive side of it, the negative side of it. What does it mean to have all these subsidies or this soft money that's coming into Jordan? Jordan is one of the biggest receiver of funding in the Arab world. What does it mean, and how does it affect negatively the green movement and the sustainability? And later I came to the conclusion, together with my father, who is now passed away, unfortunately, to create an organic farm on a land that we bought. And we delved into the market. So with all the problems of the market, all the experience with the market, all the suspicion that people have regarding organic products and how we convince them, and how to be marketable, how to be, efficient in such a competitive market like Jordan. We have so many entrepreneurs there. Everyone is born as an entrepreneur, actually.
We'll go into this, yeah. Thank you.
So that's the journey.
Yeah.
Our company is now the leading organic brand in Jordan. It's called Yamboot, and we have a farm and a supermarket and a delivery system for delivery of food, like prepared food, organic food, and fresh produce.
Okay, thank you very much. Joslin, you want to tell us a bit about your business, and a bit about you also?
First, thank you for inviting us to be here together with all of you. My name is Joslin Kehdy. I'm from Lebanon, and as you perhaps understand, Lebanon has a multi-facet of state failures. So in 2015, when we had the waste crisis, it ignited in me to take an action. And from there, I formed my NGO, Recycle Lebanon. And Recycle Lebanon doesn't work on recycling garbage. I don't believe in recycling, but to recycle the system from a linear model to a circular economy model. Because if we look at the problems in Lebanon, we are, as you could say, a case study for what is happening or is coming to happen across the world. But in Lebanon, we experience it direct and immediately and all together at once. So from infrastructure failure to being ruled by mafia to having your financial crisis and as most recently the bombing of our city out of corruption and negligence, we really have a model to look at what is really wrong within the system, starting from the people, not only from the government, and what are the actions that you can take to redesign a society system. So from this thought, I aim to look at it from a holistic approach by developing 4 programs that interconnect with each other, as the sectoral problems together are not siloed. The problem in waste doesn't exist on its own without the problem in water and agriculture and human needs, etc. So our 4 programs are based on the circular model, and we're proud to have our main platform now launched. It's Regenerate Hub, and Regenerate Hub is a circular economy platform for nature-based alternatives. And if you look at the word hub in Arabic, in English it means network, to come together, but in Arabic it means love. As I relate that if we want to first change anything in our society, we have to change ourselves and connect back to ourselves and to the earth and to our relations with others. And we cannot impose this change by just demanding that someone stops to use a plastic or switches from diesel to photovoltaic or to work on policy. We have to really stop the corruption from the convictions of ourselves. So this platform maps the intersectional challenges and nature-based alternatives with a project management and circular material flow mechanism. It's not based only in Lebanon, it's cross borders as a point also of how across the world these problems are interrelated. We all experienced this directly through COVID. So it was really wonderful to try to launch a platform where people finally understood it after 5 years of it being deemed radical. Now, all of a sudden, it's understood. So it's interesting as a challenge to see how time plays its essence in. The other programs are EcoSouk. It's the Middle East's first zero waste shop. And I say this just as a joke because all across the third world countries, we are operating as a zero waste shop because we are using package free and bulk. But now Berlin has made that very trendy in the last 5 years. So we're the Middle East's first zero waste shop. It makes you kind of rethink a little bit what that meant in our past consumption. Oftentimes, when we want to look towards the future, we don't necessarily must reduce the knowledge of the past, but to combine it together. And this is really our aim, to look at the ancient practices that are already a pillar within our regions and how this can be improved. So the EcoSouk is based in Hamra, in the capital of Beirut, and we're now having a fundraiser to make it as an online merchant shop and to expand it across other locations, not just in Lebanon. And it's really wonderful because it's a one-stop shop that has many producers from across Lebanon who are local and not only organic or natural, but with the same concept of no harm and how they can push their business forward. But if you would ask me in my lifetime as a child, what did I want to do? I'd never say retail. I'm very far from wanting to make money. So the shop is not necessarily to have the consumerism exchange, but the opposite, to rethink your consumption and production habits. So at the launching, we ensured that whoever came, they had a free tree, whether they purchased or not. As long as you came into the store, we want to offer you a free tree so you can come back and have this remembrance and reconnection with the soil. Back to your soil. So maybe it's a little bit imposing of us, but so is the consumerist market. So maybe we can try a different approach. And that leads us to our other program, the Terrapods, where it's a eco-design makerspace, arts residency, and agroecology farm. And this allows us to look at the redesign of materials, not just locally, but biomaterials, what can be made directly from the earth. So not necessarily at all to recycle plastic and create new products from it, but how we can use the elements found directly in nature to create more products. And as a space that other producers within our network could come and use the facilities to be curious and play and experiment to create new ideas. So, of course, this supports reusability, refillable, package-free, but we want to really encourage to go a step further in how you can kind of reconnect back into your basic creation. And that's why it's very important for us to include the arts residency and what can come out. So, of course, it's very saturated now to hear about the challenges, and the solutions is also very saturating because, you know, I'm just tired. I don't want to keep doing things. I just want the world to be okay, and let's move on and let's live. So it's in this aspect of the arts residency that I believe we can play and come back to our base. And with the agroecology farm, we are growing this now, and with a 250 meter square medicine garden and a dye garden, so that we can also experiment back in our natural pigments, and not necessarily to exploit the earth or the plants to use them to make medicine or natural colors. But first and foremost to connect, and second to reduce the impact that our synthetic production is causing into our water streams, into our health, into the environment. So again, with the Terrapods, this is like a circular ecosystem of its own, of how it's supporting one another. So once it's legalized in Lebanon, there's a gray area whether it's legal or not, but hemp production is really our future of how you can produce clothing and food and medicine and materials for construction, just as Rabia has the same wish. And it's very, very fortunate for us as entrepreneurs that he's also from Lebanon, because I feel in this region we have very strong desire to create. So I hope that this spirit can keep growing, and that the value of such a makerspace can push that action for change, not just in identifying the problem, which is our Regenerate Hub, and giving you access to your alternatives, or the Eco Souk, which puts on shelves the alternatives, or our other program, which works on policy and more on the ground action, but also the Terrapods, which kind of combines this all together to create, to give you the power to create in a safe space with shelter. Yeah, which is not to take for granted.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Max, you had already an introduction. However, you have been doing a lot of things within the SEKEM ecosystem. You said something like about nature text you were working. How about what you most recently with busy?
On one hand, on a meta level, I'm passionate about organizational development, and I think the most recent baby, where that gets really down to earth, is a place where we want to reinvent education for kids. I mean, we have a beautiful school and it's Waldorf inspired, but we want to dare the step also into the unknown of trying to really design education more freely and learn from the life experience of what SEKEM has to offer. I can imagine that you can teach math by going to the stable. You can learn language by going out to confront the challenges and to work with people in their mother tongue, and so on. And it's a very courageous journey where you don't know really what the next step is, but this is the kind of movement where you need to be as a teacher, I think, in order to let the kids experience something new. And I think every one of us agrees that we have an issue with the current education system, and it's just too convenient not to really leave it. So I'm really happy to experience the kind of freedom and support also from the community, because they are backing me up big time to take the step and to say, okay, let's do this crazy kind of notion and reclaim the desert of educational spaces and to create something new there. And for me, this is as much a transformational motor for experience a new way of working together, based on a dance with uncertainty and a kind of a trust where a normal hierarchical systems are really often not allowing for this, and there's a lot of shadow and fear creeping into our systems. And I think today as an entrepreneur, you have to be successful into dealing with the reality, but still keeping that vision alive. And sometimes in our hectic world, we do not allow ourselves really to take a moment to reflect and ask ourselves, okay, what am I here to give? What is my real, step into the unknown? And the people I have seen and talked with, they were all in motion, and all in a step into the unknown, and that's life. That's great.
Yeah,
I love it.
That's great. Thanks for sharing this.
Maybe we give time to the audience if they have a question related.
Yeah, we have now 3 entrepreneurs who's doing business in the MENA-region.
Yeah.
And we have 2 moderators also from the MENA-region. What a MENA-region day. So please, if you have any questions, just write it down. And then we would directly ask the questions to our entrepreneurs. I have a question myself. Yes.
I just need to say something. I don't consider myself as an entrepreneur. I know
social entrepreneur.
No, even social. I mean, I'm somehow helping to transform systems, manage projects. But I know what a social or entrepreneur is doing, and you have to be also honest to yourself. Am I really the entrepreneur who's starting, 10 projects and willing to only arrive at 3 and giving 200%, or is there something else? I just wanted to clarify that.
I would like to ask a question, actually, also to our speakers. So, entrepreneurship, it's about finding passion. Also, as an individual, you need to find passion in life, right? When did you find your passion of what you're doing? Because you sounded very enthusiastic about SEKEM and the work you're doing. And you also, when you're talking about your business, each one of you were really enthusiastic and wanted to really explain your business. When did you really found your passion in the business you're doing or the activity you do? Like to start?
Well, I think I just want to comment on something you said when you said social entrepreneur or entrepreneur. I don't think there's separation between an entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur. I think entrepreneurship in itself is social. And also the thing about economy and economy of love. I would argue that the market itself is about love, because it's about trust. without trust, we would not have any market. We could not exchange any value because everyone has to check what the other one is giving us.
Yeah.
So trust is the base of.
And the passion? How about your passion?
The passion.
Mhm.
I think you will not be an entrepreneur if you don't have a passion before, you know. If you have this dream, this crazy dream, this thing that no one believes in, maybe only you and some people near you. And so I think entrepreneurship without a passion is not possible. And I think every entrepreneur, even who works in tobacco industry, he will be having this passion, having this love he is falling in love with his idea, you know? And he has to build this trust with the customer, with his suppliers, and so it's a thing that is in the market. Sometimes we are like, in these days especially, we are like feeling guilty if we say we are in the market or we're selling something or we are economic or thinking in an economic way. I think this has to be revisited and thought about again.
And you find it as a process to find the passion?
Yeah. It's you only find the passion when you're in a process, because it's always something that you observe or something you find out while you are in action. So human action in itself is about passion. It's about when the humans find out about fire, the beginning of technology, fire as the beginning of the technology. It was all about passion.
Yeah.
And the fire became something that humans were worshipping. So this fire in us, it creates and motivates and keeps us going. It keeps the human action and the innovation going forward. So.
Now, how about you, Joslin? You mentioned different things, platform and souk and also shelter. When did you find out this is really what I want to do?
So I think my passion comes from the longing to live and to have a place to live and to feel a belonging there. So I moved from Lebanon to Hawaii and lived there about 7 years. I spent a little bit of time living in China, and I traveled a lot. And the yearning was always to return to Lebanon. And you can imagine that after living in paradise and you go to Lebanon, you're radical to think that Lebanon is paradise. But for me, Lebanon is my paradise. But the world is a paradise. And I want a world to live in, and I want to live very much alive. And the way the system is right now is on a path of full destruction. And that's not a way to wake up every morning. So my passion really comes from creating the life that we shouldn't actually work so hard to create. This should be a bare minimum, that we have a safe and secure place to call our earth. So maybe finding the passion, it's a process, but my fire is constantly ignited. Even if I have to go into the embers and sleep and restore, that passion doesn't ever shut off, because this system is very broken, but it's broken not for any reason outside of by design and by the global conglomerate system that we live in. It's from politics. There's no reason that we all even have to be here today having such inspiration to live a better life. This should already be. So yeah, it's I think this will to live, yeah, and to have this safety and security for the future. So I really can relate to the founder, Allah yarhamu, because even at his last project, he wanted the education, because it can really change the mind if the education is done not in the way the education is today. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is very interesting. About you, Max, like, when do you find your call in life? Huh? As a not entrepreneur, but something make you joy of what you're doing, especially as a person who born and raised in Europe and going to complete different ecosystem of Egypt. That most of people think Egypt is not the place to start a business, probably. But how that was for you?
Well, I have to say that when I was 26, 27, coming to Egypt, I was following an inner call that I want to really explore something new. And I was already coming from a student life where I had the pleasure and the chance to experience a different country in Europe, France. But I really want, something inside me said I want to see something else, and I discovered Egypt as being a totally different atmosphere and culture, but that spoke to me. And when I was in SEKEM for the next 7 years, between 28 and 35, I took so many different experiences. Like I said, from farm life to university life to project life and to company and export life. It took me some time to realize what is really the underlying theme behind. And I'm not an entrepreneur, otherwise I would have already been active selling my idea and creating this from nothing. No, I was absorbing the different dimensions of SEKEM to more in-depth understanding what is a social innovation. I couldn't find that anywhere in the world. I could, see that there's a karmic link because I married into the family, and there were 2 kids coming down to earth that I'm blessed with, and I went also through a separation later in my partnership, but that doesn't mean that that meant I had to reflect: do I want to stay in that place? And yes, I wanted, because I felt this was really, my heart and my will to explore how can I serve this place and how can I more understand it, because the real passion around the 35-ish age was then to understand that I want to contribute towards a maturation of a social organism like SEKEM. And I know SEKEM is in its second generation of leaders. Still the pioneering generation is alive, bringing that kind of social innovation down to earth and creating that really mature and brilliant ecosystem that is able to deliver that transition. But it is still relying on a hierarchical system, on a patriarchal system, which is very effective. But can it be in the far future a system, or do we have to look rather in the mechanisms that nature is applying by more self-organization, more kind of power to be agile from the periphery, by giving the parts of the whole enough information to act intelligently and align themselves to the vision. It has to do with consciousness evolution. It has to do with the journey of the individuals and the collective. And that is a passionate field that I can probably learn about for the rest of my life, being there, trying to contribute value, but seeing also that this is a chance to develop yourself, a chance to learn how to work together based on new principles to serve a common vision. And I think it's already great that we have a place where there is a vision that is big enough and brave enough to devote your life to. Otherwise there's no point in it. But then to figure out how to work despite a lot of egos and a lot of problems we have, that's the real kind of funny challenge I'm in. So that's how I get myself going.
Very interesting.
Salah, I have a question, very small question to Bashar specifically, and I see a lot of question marks in the audience, so we will go to them. From discussion, I have a question also from organic farming, especially for you. When you started like your company, why you selected this organic farming and how you face the market preference? Because I know in Middle East they don't care for organic product. They look for cheap product. Yeah. So how you change, especially you are the first one you started this business, and then today in the morning discussion you said a lot of other business started after that. That means successful story, and people want to follow what you are doing. So how you change the mindset of the people, of the farmer first, and also the consumer?
Yeah, very nice question. Thank you. So my father is he started as a food inspector in Jordan after finishing his studies, and he was always, he knows what is going on in the market and what kind of things, and he then became a food scientist and professor at the university. And he was always telling us, about the dangers that there are in the pesticides and the food, and etc. So this, was always in us as kids, to read about the ingredients and to smell the things, to see how they react with our bodies, etc. So this, I studied political science and Islamic studies in Germany, but I ended up being a journalist and then an environmental journalist, maybe because my father, had these seeds in us to think about these things. So, but it's not only me, but I mean, in Jordan we have a very high rate of cancer. Yeah, and people are getting more and more aware that there's a problem with the food. So it was not. It was not easy to convince them because they had bad experiences with other, and they still have bad experiences with some bad actors in the market. But for me, it was important that I knew that there's a challenge, and we worked on that. We engaged people in the farm. We invited them to eat at the farm, to work at the farm. So we created this community step by step. It took a lot of time. Maybe if we had a conventional, food business, we would just sell and make profit from the first day. But in our case, it took like 6 years to break even. Yeah. So, and partly because we had to invest so much time in education and building up trust.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience? So, one question.
Maybe it's not exactly a question, but maybe a possibility. When you speak about love, it's something which comes to you, or you come to the other one. If we see the earth now, which and she's just looking like she is hydrophobic, because all water is just taken off the surface of her skin. And so there is no love between the water and not the earth. And how can we recreate the attraction again? And that's the most important analog question.
It's a very deep comment. Thank you very much. Any speakers would like to elaborate or to give a remark?
I'll give a practical answer. I'll give a practical answer. Add in, but the water is become toxified, and if you're asking us, it means you're asking the person. You're not asking the industry. So I will answer as an individual, not as the conglomerates creating the problem. And when someone is sick, you first remove the toxin to let them to heal. And I would say also just to know, I don't believe that the responsibility is always on us. But in this situation, our choices, or the way we spend our money, the way we take actions, we are in control of that. But it doesn't reduce their responsibility. So I would say to consider your clothing and what you are wearing, because with each wash, the clothes are synthetic and they are leaching single-use microplastics, and that's only just one of the toxins. But I believe, since you're asking us as an individual, it's perhaps the first action that I can completely say, okay, I'm going to change the way I purchase and clothe my skin to reprotect the mother's earth skin. And that's in non-synthetic clothing, not even recycled plastic bottle clothing, just 100% natural cotton or natural linen, or just that it has zero synthetic. Because once you start to consider such a small micro action, you will see how much these toxins are leaching from all aspects, to the sewage treatment, to the, the oil leakages. Yani, each of our action on a very small individual level isn't only our responsibility, it's the politics of consumerism and industrialization and greed. But I believe just purchasing or finding in resale shops and supporting fiber farmers is one step to clean the water on a long term.
Community is the solution, huh? And raising awareness. Individual has responsibility. Thank you very much. I have a question also. Since you guys all based in the MENA region, so Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan, like there was an Arab Spring happening, and Lebanon also there was some things happening, and there's economic crisis. How you're dealing with this as an individual? Yeah, you start.
Yeah, it's a very challenging situation. I think in Egypt it's more intensive than in Jordan or in Lebanon. Maybe you can tell us also about your experience, or you too also, because you experienced it in Egypt firsthand. But I mean, in what happened in Egypt or in Syria and in Iraq, and it had its echoes in Jordan too. With all the refugees coming, with all the uncertainty, energy cutting, and higher prices of energy, etc. It all was very, very present in Jordan. And but I only can emphasize what Joslin said, that the individual, at the end of the day, he has the power to change the system. If we wait for the politicians come and go. And the main problem in the Arab Spring was that we are concentrating on the changing the ruler, or the ruling class. But it's not only about the ruler or the ruler class, it's about the whole system. So it's about changing our habits and raising our awareness. How we consume, what is our role in the market. I believe in markets. I believe in the individual choice, and I don't believe in any totalitarian or socialist solution for our problem, because it will only increase the problem. And we tried it in many parts of the world, in history, many times, in different contexts. Totalitarian or socialistic solutions don't work. So what stays is the individual and his choices and and how he acts in the market. And this is the basis of our life. The government is not part of society. Government is something separate. It's actually, there's something very interesting in my political science journey, and the realization that there are two ways, you know, to create value or to make money actually in history, or to produce. Either you participate voluntarily in the market and be a producer or farmer or industrialist or manufacturer, or you be a politician. Politician meaning a mafia, actually. It's how you be a parasite on the market. So and that's how state actually developed. State developed from the idea of cutting the roads, being a pirate, you know. Piratism. It was always like a parasitic,
A bar of control.
a parasitic, entity within the system that, you know, tried to extract value from people who are productive. So this realization made me think, made me rethink about the power of us as individuals, how much power we give to the government to organize and to control us. So,
and how about resilience as an individual and as a business? What do you think of that?
it's very important. If we, and again, in everything we do, if a company or a family or a relationship or social organization, if we don't think about resilience and about how are we funding ourselves, how are we creating value in a way that is circular, it's decentral. Resilience has so much to do with decentral systems.
I'm tired of being resilient. It's too hard to have to live so difficult of a life and to be in so much suffering, and to accept that the human must continue to be resilient, I think, is the same as looking at the carbon sequestering. You're just pushing it to another instead of looking at the root. Why is our world needing us to be so resilient? It shouldn't be our form to be strong. We could be stronger in love.
But this is maybe because you would have control on your behavior, but this you just maybe something you realize, but you don't have really control of.
The resilience or the love?
No, like the external factors of how the system is created. But being resilient is something you control to do, right? Of choices you make.
In Lebanon, we don't have the control. We don't have the choice.
No.
We are run by a mafia. And in Lebanon, it's a case study of how the world is run by a mafia, but we are eating, tasting, smelling, touching it, drowning in it every day. And after the infijar, I think you will also relate, Rabia.
The explosion.
We don't want to be a resilient person anymore. We want to have a calm life.
Yeah, adapting to everyday.
We're tired of adapting.
Yeah.
That should not be our norm. And to continue to say we are strong because we are resilient is a pattern of abusive policies, that we don't have to be the strong nation anymore. Actually, there are systematic alternatives by designing a new system that is not necessary for us to continue fighting for our life.
But what you are doing in Lebanon is actually the right path. You are saying we want to be, all the systems that you are describing, all your actions that you're doing are creating resilience actually. But maybe we don't need resilience on a national level. Maybe we need it on a personal level.
But this is the will.
Yeah.
Each person has the passion and the will and the love, and it comes from a different energy than the resilience that it tires you. It tires your spirit. It tires, خلاص, really.
I saw raised hand.
Yeah, there's a question, so please go ahead.
It was more of an addition because you talked about, well, it seemed like you talked about the resilience of a system, or more being part of a resilient system. So, for instance, like not a complicated but a complex ecosystem and all the enterprises you have, that's all it weaves into each other. So it's more, maybe it should be on a national level, that it should be more complex and woven into each other, and then you can just be part of it. So there's not that much pressure on you, but just how it all works together.
Yeah, it's like a mycelium network in a natural ecosystem. It's not that you have multiple colonies invading each other in the forest. You have a mycelium network that is supporting each other. And this is the resilience of the will to provide nutrients and support and the give and take, but not to rob a bank because your father is on a deathbed and you have $250,000 in the bank account and the bank is stolen your money and you cannot take it out, or because there's a bread line and your family has no money to feed because they can no longer access their money and they're living off bread, but now there is no more bread in the country, or that there's no more petroleum because the corrupt persons have taken the petroleum and stored it until the dollar can increase and sell it at a different price, or someone has taken the medicines and stored it until it's gone and expired, and now you're no longer having access to medications and people are dying. And that's just a very tiny part of what it is like to wake up every day and what it will be like to wake up around the world. And we're just experiencing all of it together now. We also don't have Wi-Fi at the moment, or electricity, or there's a form of resilience that is no longer romanticized. It's enough.
Yeah, that's a really strong message. How about you, Max? Like, to keep the well as an individual and...
Well, what I see in the model that we live there is, of course, on the one hand, we are able to communicate with a system that is global and that has its dysfunctions and corruptions, as a meaning market logic. I mean, discussions about selling organic food is often about prices, 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 prices. No, it shouldn't be. It should be on one table where the farmer looks into the eyes of the consumer, looks into the eyes of the brand, and they should talk about the needs. And we are simulating that as much as we can, but the traditional marketplace is gone, and we are coping with it. We are not radical to say, no, we are only the new system. We are working on a transition, but I know that it's, I think, very helpful that we engage in growing organic food, processing organic food, making products that we really need, setting up an educational system that tries to reinvent itself, trying to do research, and like seeing how it all belongs together to form a microcosm of society that when it comes to a collapse, that is somehow able to provide a model for 2,000 people to be somehow related to each other, you know? And I'm sure we will face a lot of challenges, but we know of what to do the next day. Also, I know how to grow food and to build a house from the local sand and compacted rammed earth. Not personally, but I've seen my co-members doing it from this community. So the question, I think, is the right, and I think it changes dramatically the power from going through a path of suffering, if you know for what, you know, and why. What is in the end on this path of suffering? If it leads towards emancipation and finding an inner call.
Can I interrupt you?
Of course. Yeah.
We are already emancipated. We learned so much to colonize our mind that we are not emancipated, that we are not free, and we're living in a system as if we're not free, but we are free. It's our choices.
Who's we?
Each and every one of us.
I don't think that we are all free, especially not when we think that we are free. Is our mind really free to take the choice of, waking up and going to work and then buying this kind of food, going back, raising the kids, sending to an education? Are we really asking ourselves, what do we really want?
think we fit in
But
the
we have
systems.
this choice to
We have the choice,
unleash that.
but we have to
To adapt to systems, yeah.
Yeah.
That has been built around financial systems, education systems, different circles.
Yeah. I look to the time, I see only 3 minutes left.
Yeah. Maybe, are there any other questions
Or a take-home message from one of you, how to be a successful entrepreneur in such difficult environment? Like, I know in Middle East it's not easy to be entrepreneur, like with the systems. Compared to Iraq, is like everything led by the government. So it is like really government wants to do everything. I guess like in other MENA region, more or less the same system. So how you can be successful like this? Take a message to start your successful business in such environment, difficult environment.
I think we live now in a time that we are very fortunate to live in these times because we have a couple of tools, that help us not only in the MENA region but all the world. But we have this internet, we have the renewable energy, we have this awareness that is getting bigger and bigger. People are addressing the right problem. They're seeing the role of the government. They are recognizing what individual role they can play, and they can connect to each other. And we have renewable energy. It's free form of energy that can mobilize all the new movements that can occur. So I think this is actually for the future. I'm very hopeful.
Okay, good.
I want to add also, because we're talking about entrepreneurship, that it's really important to ask where is the value created for what? No? I mean, entrepreneurs can indeed create automatic weapons or gypsy in plastic packages that are eaten by kids every morning in school. The question is like, how is this creative power and this drive to solve problems employed for community values, also for doing good for community? And how do we channel capital towards this entrepreneurial spirit that is able to solve problems and create or address a need? I think, this is also an inspiration of Rudolf Steiner back in the days, in the 1920s, where he saw capitalism and socialism on the one hand, and where he had something to say about a solidaric form of associative economics, which is a source of inspiration for the economy of love. It is about the question of how to channel capital, to whom, to do what, and also addresses the question of what is a fair compensation for this. Actually, a fair compensation should be just as much as you need to live in dignity and to develop yourself. Also, there are basic questions, basic answers of how to create a system that provides an alternative realm for people to joyfully engage in what they are doing. Not everyone has to be an entrepreneur. And if you are an entrepreneur, then we should make sure as society that you get capital, not for your profit maximization, but because of your ability to address needs effectively.
You know what this is called now? Community-based solutions.
Yeah.
Solutions that face the community. And how about you, Joslin?
Yeah, I would really look at the impact that your entrepreneurship program is creating and not the profit that you are needing to capitalize the project on. I think we all agree and spoke many times about this, that any project that is first and foremost in the hunger of making it a financial gain for you, this is not the first priority to succeed. You have to really look at what is the value, the impact, and the need that you are addressing. You can see many of the same projects copy-pasted, but that's not what we need exactly to solve our crises. We need to look at what hasn't been created or new ways of recreating. So this is why I really like the eco-design model, because you look at it from many different approaches, not just in, you know, how do you come out with a viable model.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go.
And the question is, I mean,
last remark?
To mirror it, and speaking about that, the question is, where does your money lie? Yeah? Also, on what bank does your money lie? Because banks are giving money away for working on things that probably, I don't know, most of us really don't know. You know, what is my money working for? That's the exact question that everyone should ask yourself, because it's system relevant for where do we put our money, where does it give money away, for what kind of entrepreneurship or profit maximization. So we all can make a difference. So back to each one of us here to make a choice in terms of money, clothing, food, and how to send our kids to education. I think that's the name of the game, and that puts every one of you on the podium, I would say.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Shall we take a last question? Is there any last question?
Okay.
Yeah, that leave. Oh, yeah, this one. Okay, so just a second.
When I first, do I have to speak in that? Okay.
Yeah, please.
When I was 18 and I graduated from high school, I came here to Wageningen University. I was a vegetarian. I wanted to eat ecologically friendly food, and I wanted to develop myself in this. And there was no possibility for that yet, 1980. So university was not yet ready to give me what I needed as a young person, and many with me. Now we're 42 years ahead, and I hear stories here which really inspire me, and I understand that one of the last questions to Max was, why do you come here, and what do you expect from the Wageningen University? But what does Wageningen University do with all these experiences? If I hear how SEKEM does inspire community building, what does Wageningen University learn from them? That's what I would like to ask. And not to the three speakers, but to the institution of Wageningen University.
Well, maybe I answer this because
yeah, please.
I said in the beginning that today it is like we are learning.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are not giving the knowledge to them. So we are learning from them, and it's very inspiring experience.
One thing you learned?
Well,
Teacher as well.
yeah, I'm also a teacher. I'm also a teacher in Wageningen. What I learned also my background also from Middle East, and what I learned from them with this difficult environment, difficult climate condition, water scarcity, salinity, knowledge of the farmer. This is very important. And one of the answers he said, like knowledge from his father. And but with this situation, they created a value. He mentioned to the value and make the success. So we as a university, as Wageningen, as a teacher, as a researcher, we know we can make from these difficulties, like from salinity, we can. Yeah, we know that, but we see the example, very successful example. So we can say for our student, now the academic year is starting next week. So we can say to tell our student that, hey, we have this problem, but now we have success. So you can learn from it. Maybe for the future, we were discussing with Max, with the future, maybe we can send a master student to do their internship and learn from them. Yeah.
Well, I also do want to bring it to an institution. However, as a personal, I really learned today the community-based solutions. Each one of them, as an entrepreneur or having a call in life, they addressed a problem and they tried to work on it to really have a change. And this problem or challenge is very relevant to the local community. And they're now still having the passion of doing it and continue to do it. So thank you very much. That leaves me to thank the speakers. Thank you very much. My colleague Karar, please, closer.
Well, thanks a lot. I personally, I also enjoyed this public event. Also nice to meet you, and also to the audience for your question. I also learned a lot, and well, we just close this, and we will have a networking event. So if you have a question, you can also tell them directly. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Finally, I would like to also thank StartHub Wageningen for hosting us today.
Yes.
Ben for the IT and all the support you showed. Thank you. For Grote Midden Oosten Platform also co-organizing the event, and the SEKEM Vriendenkring as well, the speakers. And Grete, please.
Last word for you.
We also have a little present to share, because what I learned yesterday especially was to do things together. And we are very passionate about co-creation and co-development. So I thought one of our startups is making very sustainable snacks, and you need some brain food after this long of a sit. Share them. They are made from bananas from Ecuador, which were not exportable. So he collects them there locally, helps them to develop a drying process, and we sell them here at the premium in Europe. This is also something we can do. Buy stuff we can afford so that others have a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And there are different tastes, so you have to